He has been dominating Season 1, 2 Open Series Finals appearances. No trophies, of course. Also has a PTQ Finals appearance where he's also lost. So it's that one match that he just can't get.
Can't close.
Yeah.
Can't close. Coffee's for closers.
That's accurate. So he is without coffee. Starbucks is closed for him as he's going to start things up here with a Blood Crypt. And we'll see what one drop he has. And it's going to be a Rakdos Cackler. I assume this will be unleashed. There's your die. There's your 2/2. We'll move on to Braverman.
I got to say, if you're playing a deck that has one drop, 2 power creatures in it, you have to be really happy in this particular format. There are some decks that just cannot deal with that start.
Yeah, and especially in this particular week when people are playing Esper or gearing their deck trying to beat Esper, as Braverman looks like he's done a little bit here with his black-white mid-range deck. He's going to go down to 18. Ketter's going to play a Temple of Malice for his second land. We'll see if he has another 1-drop to play. And that would be another Cackler because he does not actually have Tormented Hero in his deck. His deck, while it is aggressive, it's kind of on a curve. He goes from Cackler to Spike Jester and Thrillkill Assassin to Chandra's Phoenix and Herald of Torment to Xava and Stormbreath, Dragon, and with some burn spells and removal in there.
Yeah, we've seen versions of Mono Red and Mono Black beatdown, but this is basically a combination of the two. He has that Thrillkill Assassin, which we don't really see that often outside of the Mono Black beatdown deck.
Yep.
And he also has Herald of Torment, which is another interesting card that people really seem to think is really, really good.
The power on that thing is huge. Good early, good late because of Bestow. So you really got to like that card. As Braverman has drawn a Temple of Silence. We'll see if that's what he's going to cast or not, as Ketter did resolve his Scry. Braverman looks like he's going to do the same here. So he's off to a slow start, but that's expected, as the black-white mid-range deck does have a bevy of lands that come into play tapped.
Yeah, and the cool thing about the aggro deck that Ken's playing is even cards like Ultimate Price really can't target the 1-drop. So. Yeah. Kent actually can put a lot of pressure on you, and meanwhile, a lot of these decks in this format just play so many come-into-play tap lands or deal damage to themselves that you could actually just lose before you can even cast any of your high-end spells.
Ketter's going to get the beats on with the Chandra's Phoenix, so across for 4 he goes. Braverman's going to go down to 14. You can see Ketter's deck, he's really using the haste mechanic. He's got a couple of copies of Xava in his hand as well. The last thing he wants to play against is Blind Obedience, but there isn't going to be one here from Braverman in game number 1. Braverman will play a Swamp here on his 3rd turn. He knows he's underneath the gun, and he just has to pass the turn back. Likely that he has a removal spell, as that's what this deck does, and he's definitely going to need one, as Ketter's picked up a Spike Jester now, too.
Wow, so Kent's hand is pretty stocked. If he can get 4th or 5th land in play, he's going to start unloading really, really effective threats. And unfortunately, he didn't draw a 4th land, but he did draw a Spike Jester, so he's able to continue to put a little pressure on. Michael does have the removal spell, so he's basically, you could see the kind of inefficiency here. 3-mana removal spell on a 2-mana creature. Yeah. Braverman drops to 10 from the attack now. So Michael, though, is a little fortunate because Kent still just doesn't have that 4th mana. He's got multiple Xavas along with a Stormbreath Dragon in his hand. So
it's a scary situation here where lands are good for Ketter and most of his spells are good too. He does have burn spells like Lightning Strike and Magma Jet. And even though Dreadpore is not at its best right now, well, it's going to be turned on here because there's a Desecration Demon. So that's going to come in. Ketter's going to untap. He's going to take a draw. Looks like a land. It looks like a Mutavault here.
Wow, so great draw from Kent. Now he has a couple of options. He can play Xava and then sacrifice a Chandra's Phoenix to get in for 6, dropping Michael to 4. Let's see what he wants to decide to do here. I mean, I kind of like being a little aggressive here because then you could always use your Dreadbore next turn.
Sure.
And then you'll get a 4/4 in play. Plus, you have the Mutavault.
Sure.
So you can actually attack for a lot. You kind of, if you can get Michael down to 4, and with the Mutavault, the Rakdos Cackler, and Xava, it's going to be hard for Michael to come back from that.
Well, he's going to go with Xava. He's going to sacrifice something.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's going to be the Cackler or the Chandra's Phoenix. Part of the reason that you may want to sacrifice the Phoenix is because you can get it back with a burn spell, obviously. And then because Rakdos Cackler is a multicolored creature, it's going to actually shut off Ultimate Price.
Yeah. So basically, he has options. I do think he's going to sacrifice something. So it looks like he's going to go for Cackler and keep the Phoenix in play. Maybe he just wants the flying in there. So either way, he's going to drop Michael down to 4 here, and that's the perfect number for Kent because he has a Mutavault, Chandra Phoenix in play. So even if Michael has an answer to the Xava, he's still going to be taking 4. So
yeah, the decision to sacrifice a Cackler or a Phoenix is really interesting because I mentioned the reason that you can sacrifice the Phoenix. If you sacrifice the Cackler, what Kent can do here is he can draw a burn spell like Lightning Strike or Magma Jet, and then he can control the demon, attack with the Phoenix in the air, in the event that maybe Braverman plays a card like Bloodbaron of Vescopa and still be okay. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely a decision to be made there on which creature to sacrifice. There's definitely arguments to be made for both. As Desecration Demon Trigger is going to be placed on the stack here by Braverman. He looks like he is not going to attack. He's going to play a Godless Shrine tapped feels like a removal spell at the ready here.
Yeah, so he's going to need 2 removal spells here because Kent does have a Dread board to deal with the Desecration Demon. So he's going to be able to get rid of the Desecration Demon, activate Mutavault, and attack with all his creatures. So unless Michael has double removal spell, it looks like he's going to be dead this game.
Braverman just passes the turn with 4 mana. There's a Dread board on the 7/7 Desecration Demon.
So it looks like Michael might actually have Ultimate Price and Bioblade. So he might actually have... well, no, Ultimate Price can't take out Exava, so he's going to need a way to deal with Exava here.
Ketter going to fire at Mutavault. He's going to send everybody into the red zone. What he can do here is he can Ultimate Price the Chandra's Phoenix, Bioblight the Exava to make it into a 1/1, and then take 3 and go down to 1. I'm not saying that's a great turn, but it's an option at least, and it's going to be leaving him at least alive. So
he can stay alive. So he's going to Ultimate Price Chandra's Phoenix, and now he's going to Bioblight the Exava.
Because he can't Bioblight Mutavault because then he'll just die. And Braverman can't be thrilled with this play, but it's one that he's got to make. So that's going to be a 1/1. 3 damage will come across. Braverman's going to go down to 1, so Ketter hasn't closed him out just yet, but Braverman has his back against the wall in a big way. As you do see, there is a Blood Baron of a scope in his hand right now.
Yeah, so Blood Baron can come down. Chandra's Phoenix. So, Michael's going to cast the Blood Baron here. Can't see what's in Kent's hand. He does have the Stormbreath, so if he draws a 5th land...
it's a Rakdos Cackler.
So Rakdos Cackler. So it looks like... let's see. Is this Blood Baron going to take over the game here?
His hand is really interesting. He has an Exava, a Cackler, he has a Herald of Torment, and a Stormbreath Dragon. So he's in this really strange situation. And he's going to hard cast Herald instead of saving... Because if he draws a land, he can just cast a Dragon. Now he's going to play the Cackler. He's going to unleash it, which would give it haste because Exava's in play. But if he were to attack with both of his creatures, Exava would get blocked by Blood Baron, and then Cackler would deal damage. But because of the 4 life that Blood Baron gains, Braverman would go up to 5 and then down to 3. Yeah. The issue here for Braverman is that if he attacks, he just dies on the counterattack. Yeah,
so basically, Kent is basically setting up an all-out attack next turn.
Yeah.
Trying to put Braverman on a removal spell. It looks like he does have a Devour Flesh, so Kent is still back in this game. He can at least cast the Devour Flesh. I'm not sure if he has another removal spell. He might need another removal spell. At 1 life, let's see what he can do here. Because the Herald of Torment has flying, so that can just come over and kill him.
Yeah.
Blood Baron doesn't even get a chance to block there.
Ketter is in the enviable situation right now where lands are good and a very high percentage of his spells are good. Again, Dreadbore is probably the worst spell that he can draw in this situation given the current board state. Lightning Strike, Magma Jet, obviously fantastic. Spike Gesture with haste. Thrill Kill Assassin, you unleash it, it'll have haste. Chandra's Phoenix. Herald of Torment is just okay. Exava's fine, and Stormbreath Dragon obviously is in his hand already. That's good too, but we'll see what Ketter does draw here.
Wow, good draw there.
Chandra's
Phoenix. So Chandra's Phoenix can come down here, and he can just swing for 5 in the air. If Braverman doesn't have a target or removes, but he does have Devour Flesh, he could have Devour Fleshed himself if Herald of Torment only came over to at least buy himself another turn. But now we have 5 damage in the air, so not sure if Braverman has a target or removal spell or not.
So the question here is, how does Ketter attack? And I think it's just with the flyers.
Yeah, so both, it's no reason to attack with Exava or Rakdos Cackler. So both flyers are going to come over. We're going to see, he looks like he does have an ultimate price here.
Yeah, so ultimate price can take down 1, and the Devour Flesh he can target himself.
Yes, which is what he's going to have to do. Not a great situation because obviously he's losing his Blood Baron, and he's still taking 2 damage. So Blood Baron is no longer going to be a blocker next turn.
Yeah, and Devour Flesh, Braverman says, I have to target myself. I don't have a choice. Sacrificing the Blood Baron, he's going to go up to 5. Phoenix deals damage down to 3. And Ketter is obviously in very, very good board position as he passes it back to Braverman, who will untap those lands, take a draw step, and find... Doesn't look like anything of consequence here.
A couple of Desecration Demons and a land, so really nothing for Michael to do here. It looks like it might be a pack right as well, but again... he is at 3. He's going to be able to make 2 blockers, but there's a Mutavault in play as well. So, and there's a 5th land finally for the Stormbreath Dragon. So
now here's an interesting question. You're Ketter, you draw the 5th land for the Stormbreath Dragon. Do you cast it? You don't need to cast it to win the game.
So you're saying you don't want to show him?
You could fire up Mutavault and likely get the job done here.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's really no reason. The only question is if somehow he has like main deck Dark Betrayal, you lose. You actually lose one of your lands, but yeah, I'm with you. There's really no reason to cast Stormbreath. You don't want to give away that information. just activate Mutavault to attack with everything.
That's exactly what Ketter's going to do. He's not going to play the Stormbreath Dragon. He's going to get in the red zone this way. You can see the 4 creatures coming in. The Exava, which is a 4/4. The Rakdos Calculator is a 2/2, along with the Phoenix and the Mutavault, and Braverman's going to pack it in. So hides a little bit of information there. Now, of course, we don't know if Ketter and Braverman have been sitting next to each other over the course of this tournament, but if they haven't and they don't know what each other is playing, Ketter gets a pretty big advantage as he is a little bit happy with his win here. We're going to go to the sideboards. We'll start with Michael Braverman's, which you do have in front of you as he'll be on the play here.
Well, like you said, the interesting thing about not showing the Stormbreath Dragon means that there's not that many cards that Michael saw game 1 that are effective Doomblade targets. So obviously, Chandra's Phoenix was there, but it's not like you're going to board in extra Doomblades just to kill a Chandra's Phoenix. So if you don't expect Stormbreath Dragon, it's certainly conceivable for Michael to not board in extra Doomblades. So he has 3 copies of Sin Collector, 3 Duress, 2 Lifebane Zombie, 1 Revoke Resistance, 3 more copies of Blood Baron, 2 Doomblades, and an Erebos. The question is, does he want to bring in the Doomblades? They could end up just being dead in his hand. There are certainly draws that Kent can get where Doomblade does absolutely nothing. However, Stormbreath Dragon is a very, very, very good card against you. So do you know about it? What do you expect to see? It's going to be a tough decision. That's probably the hardest thing for him. Blood Baron, I definitely see Blood Baron coming in. I mean, obviously, it's one of the cards that can help you try to take control of the game. Unfortunately for him, he didn't have enough removal early on for the Blood Baron that he did draw to kind of help him win. But Blood Baron's definitely going to come in. Sin Collector, I don't see that coming in, neither do I see Duress coming in. Lifebane Zombie, maybe it might come in just as a way to kind of get a spell, cast a spell early and kind of just get yourself a blocker. But in general, though, Blood Baron is the only auto-include, I think, and then maybe a couple of copies of Doomblade, depending on whether or not you think they have Stormbreath Dragon.
On the flip side here for Ketter, he's got an Erebos God of the Dead, an additional Stormbreath Dragon for his 3 main deck, 3 copies of Dark Betrayal, 3 Doomblades of his own, 3 Museum Mortars, and 4 copies of Skullcrack. Pretty easy to bring in the Dark Betrayals here, along with maybe that copy of Stormbreath Dragon, some number of Museum Mortars. I'm not convinced that he needs 3, but he would like to have ways to get rid of a Blood Baron of a Scopa. And then 4 copies of Skullcrack, more for your Sphinx's Revelation-esque matchups. You could make an argument for Erebos God of the Dead as well if Kent kind of foresees these games going a little bit longer. He can actually turn on the Devotion with that card as well. But at the end of the day, I think we're going to see the 3 Dark Betrayals first, and then he'll kind of decide how many Mortars if he wants an additional Stormbreath Dragon here as well.
Yeah, I love the Erebos, mostly just because it's another way for you to turn off the life gain ability of Blood Baron, but it's also a proactive card. So unlike Museum Mortars, it's not going to be dead in your hand. You can actually cast it, you can draw cards with it, and you can actually activate its Devotion a lot easier than some other decks that incorporate Erebos.
Yeah, with the Devotion check, you've got Cackler, who provides 1, same with Spike Jester and Thrillkill Assassin. Herald of Torment, only 2 in Ketter's deck. That'll provide 2, and then Exava the Blood Witch will provide 1 as well. It's not as easy to turn on as, a mono black Devotion deck or something that has access to Nightfield Spectre, but it's not impossible for Kent to turn the God of the Dead into a 5/7 attacker here. So be interested to see if he does bring in just a singleton out of his sideboard and what he wants to bring out. Dreadbore plays a pretty important role in his deck to take care of a card like Desecration Demon. Magma Jet's not at its most powerful, even though he did see Pack Rat at the back end of that game, so there's the chance he leaves that in. And Lightning Strike, it's fine. It's not exciting, but it is 3 damage against the mono black deck black white deck, but when you're trying to race, that might be key here.
If I had to guess, I would say maybe the burn spells, all 8 burn spells come out for 3 Mortars, 3 Betrayal, 1 Erebos, and 1 Stormbreath. I think maybe Kent thinks that he can kind of win early on with his creatures. He doesn't really need the burn to help him win, but he doesn't want to lose randomly to a Blood Baron.
Sure.
So I wouldn't be surprised if he tries that package. I just don't know how much he values his burn. Burn is a lot better against a creature-based matchups where you can actually kind of kill stuff, but for just randomly burning out Braverman, it's going to be hard to burn him out if you expect them to have cards like Blood Baron and opposite up.
Both players taking a look at their opening hands. Ketter's going to send his back. Braverman's on the play. He's already decided to keep. Again, this is basically a match for top 8 here. You see both players are 11-3. With any luck, the winner of this match will be able to draw in the following round. We do essentially have 3 top 8 slots locked in, with Jared Betcher, your number 1 seed right now, sitting at 12-2. You got Joe Lissette at 12-2 as well. And then Tom Ross, also sitting at 12-2. So very interesting to see what's going to happen there. And of course, our invitational top 8 is Legacy. Betcher playing Red-White Painter. Lissette, of course, playing Miracles. And then Ross playing Blue-Green Infect. 3 very different decks.
Yeah, I'm excited to see an Infect deck in the top 8.
Me too.
It's a really exciting deck, can have some pretty explosive draws. And I just love the fact that Tom Ross plays these hyper-aggressive decks no matter what the format.
Yeah.
You know, mostly because it puts a lot of pressure on your opponent. Like, and the more pressure you can put on them, the more likely they are to make mistakes. So plays right into Tom's strengths.
Ketter going to keep. And Braverman already has kept. We're underway in game number 2. Temple of Silence will get things started.
So it looks like Kent does have a 1-drop. He has that Rakdos Cackler. And he has a Temple of Malice as well, so that can kind of help him smooth out his draws.
Wants to get the damage train started early here. Also has a Mizium Mortars. Not surprised to see that in his deck at this point, as he did see Blood Baron of the Scope the last game. Braverman going to play a Swamp. He'll pass the turn back. Ketter will take a draw. Looks like it was a Spike Jester off the top, but I don't think he has an untapped red source. So in comes the Cackler, and unsurprisingly, that'll die to a Bile Blight.
So ideal start for Braverman. He's able to deal with Kent's first creature, and Kent now can't devote a second creature to the board. So Braverman just trying to survive to turn 5 so he can start unleashing a horde of 5-drops.
Yeah, the entire plan here for Michael, I believe, is just to kill something, then play a big dummy and try to get the game done that way.
Yes, Kent does have 3 different removal spells. He has a Dreadbore, a Mizium Mortars, and a Dark Betrayal. So he does have answers to any of the 5-drops that Kent could possibly throw out there.
There's a Spike Jester. That's going to attempt to come across for 3, and it does. So Braverman's going to go down to 17. Ketter, if he does have a land, which he does, is the Temple of Silence, another Scry land. If you've read Kent's articles or seen his deck lists, you know that he is a huge fan of Scry lands in all types of decks, as they are incredibly powerful cards. As he puts the top card to the bottom, passes it back over to Braverman, who draws a copy of Obsidian for the turn.
Yeah, so Kent's hand is actually pretty good, despite the fact that he had the mulligan. He has a multiple removal spells in order to contend with any of Michael's hand cards, and he also has an Erebos.
Sin Collector here from Braverman. He's going to see the Dark Betrayal, the Dreadbore, the Mizium Mortars, and the Erebos here.
Yeah, so
to see what card he's going to take.
Sin Collector, a great card out of Braverman's sideboard. It allows him to not only take one of the removal spells, but it also allows him to block creatures. So Sin Collector, one of the cards we neglected to mention in between games, but definitely one of those cards that gets better after board, because a lot of people just board in more spells against you.
Yeah. And that's not much of a surprise here that Kent is going to board in spells to take care of the problematic threats that Braverman does have. That's just a way that people try to go about beating these black-white or black devotion decks. Mortars for Blood Baron, for example, which Kent does have in his hand. Braverman is going to consult his hand. He does have 2 copies of Obsidian, so Dark Betrayal is obviously pretty appealing in this situation, but he's going to take the Mortars.
Yep, so he's going to take the Mortars. So Dark Betrayal still an Obsidian, which Braverman has in his hand. Fortunately, Braver missed his 4th land drop.
Ooh.
So let's see what Kent decides to do. He does not draw another land. He draws a Stormbreath Dragon. So he's just going to Dreadbore that Sin Collector. He's going to leave that Dark Betrayal in his hand. That'll allow him to deal with any Desecration Demons or Obsidians later in the game. Let's see if Michael's able to start drawing land. And he does. A good one, too, Mutavault.
Yeah, that's actually a very, very good one there for Braverman. And the Sin Collector there was insane. Yep, took 2 removal spells.
Yeah, took 2 removal spells. Now Michael's hand's pretty good. He's got a Hero's Downfall, so he has a way to kill the Spike Jester if he wants to. He also has a Mutavault in play, too. So he just needs 1 more land to start unleashing all those Obsidians and Blood Barons.
Ketter drew a Spike Jester for the turn. It'd be very easy to just cast that and jam it in there. He gave it a little bit of pause because if a Bile Blight's in Braverman's hand, it's an absolute disaster. Ketter hoping that he doesn't have one. Braverman's going to slide his lands around a little bit here. He's got that Hero's Downfall, as you did mention, just deciding if he wants to use it here or not, and it looks like he does.
Yeah, again, he might not know about Stormbreath Dragon, and either way, Kent's stuck at 3 mana right now. Plus, Braverman just wants to get to 5 and 6 mana because he's got Obsidians. He also has an Elspeth in his hand, so just needs to make sure he hits his land drops, which it looks like he did draw another land.
Yeah, I believe that may have been a Godless Shrine.
Yeah, so Godless Shrine can come in here. He'll take 2, but if he decides to cast Obsidian, he'll be able to gain it back, but he might leave with Blood Baron given the fact that he took a Mizium Mortars.
Yeah, and there is the Baron. So Ketter's going to quickly untap. He's going to take a draw. It's a Swamp. Taps 4 mana very quickly. There's an Erebos. And even though Erebos can't attack or block right now, Blood Baron is just a boring 4/4 right now.
Yeah, so finally Kent draws a land here. So not a great situation for him because still Blood Baron's going to be able to attack his life total, but at least he's not going to have to deal with Michael gaining life.
Yeah, that's actually a really huge play, is that one of Erebos. Braverman is going to come into the red zone, presumably here. He did draw another Blood Baron with Scope, and he has multiple copies of Obsidian, but the problem here is that he's not able to gain any life due to that Erebos, so now he has to have a damage racing game, which may favor Ketter, even though, as you mentioned, the 5-drops are going to start raining down.
Yeah, if Kent can draw a red here, And it looks like it's a tempo.
Ooh.
Wow. So unfortunately, he won't be able to cast Storm Breath this turn, and that might be the key.
Yep.
If he was able to get a Storm Breath in play, I'd say he could probably win the race, but now I'm just not sure he's going to be able to do it. He's going to pay 2 to draw a card, and there's a Blood Crypt. So this means that if he draws, this is actually not the worst thing for Kent. He has triple red, so if Michael decides to just go with an Obsidian next turn, he can Dark Betrayal it, and then if he untaps and draws a Mizzium Mortis, he's right back in it.
Yeah. He's definitely behind right now. Of course, his Spike Gesture cannot block. It couldn't attack because Braverman has pro-black creature, and now it can't block because Ketter has a black creature for the 2 pro-black Blood Baron. So we're going to see an attack here, presumably for 8, to put Ketter down to 6, and then it might end up being that Stormbreath Dragon might be on blocking duty.
So let's see what Michael decides to do here. It looks like he did draw another Godless Shrine, so he could take 2 and get to 6 mana so he can cast Elspeth, or he could just try to play an Obsidian here, gain a little life cushion, and play that land tapped. I kind of like just playing the land tapped, just because, it's the most conservative. It's basically a 4-point life swing.
Yeah.
Because instead of taking 2, you're gaining 2. So
Braverman a little bit conservative on the attack here. I thought he may attack with both. He decides to attack with just 1 Blood Baron, puts Ketter down to 10.
Well, there's no reason to, because Obsidian's going to make it lethal no matter what.
Okay.
If he plays Obsidian here, he's going to drop him to 8, so the Blood Barons are going to win. Although, again, it does mean that a top deck Mizzium Mortars will be huge for Kent. So I expect Kent to cast Dark Betrayal targeting the Obsidian now.
So Obsidian's going to come in. It's going to only drain, no gain here due to the Erebos that's in play on Ketter's side. So you see the life totals of 8 to 9. Trigger on the stack. Will Ketter fire off the Dark Betrayal? Braverman does know he has it from the Sin Collector much earlier in the game.
Yeah, so Kent's in a tough spot. I think he has to use Dark Betrayal here, knowing that Mizzium Mortis is probably his best out.
Yeah, the situation there is, do I fire this off or do I draw a card with Erebos? I think that was his decision. And he decides, okay, Dark Betrayal with the Obsidian trigger on the stack. Untap, take a draw. What does he find? It's a copy of Dreadbore.
Wow. Unfortunately, that's not going to do it. He's going to have to cast Storm Breath here just to block.
I mean, yeah, he's going to cast the Dragon. Going to play a Blood Crypt tapped. Going to pass the turn back. He's on blocking duty now.
Storm Breath's on blocking duty. It could take out one of the Blood Barons, but now Michael can unleash an Elspeth.
Time.
And he has a second Obsidian as well.
Yeah. Really good hand here from Braverman.
So if I'm Braverman, I just do not pump the brakes, attack with both Obsidians here. Get rid of that Stormbreath Dragon. You have to force Ken to block the Stormbreath with the Stormbreath. Otherwise, if he draws a land and monsters it, you could just lose the game.
Yeah.
So you have to attack with both Blood Barons, I think.
This one, you've got some backup in Elspeth and Obsidian in your hand. You're pretty comfortable just attacking here, trading one of your Blood Barons for the Dragon. Kent obviously could attack with his Dragon, so he knows that he needs to trade. So the trade looks like it's going to take place here. I don't think there's going to be effects before damage. There won't be. So, obviously, because the Dragon has protection from white, it's not going to die.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, so Kent just has to block. He goes down to 4, and if Ketter is able to find a land, that's going to turn to a 7/7. I don't think Braverman will be able to get all the cards out of his hand, so now it begs the question of should he play Elspeth and plus or minus it?
If he minuses, then the Elspeth just dies, and then he just all in on Obsidian, basically.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem here, is like if he minuses the Elspeth, it kills the Dragon and it kills the Blood Baron, but it leaves the Spike Jester behind. Spike Jester could take care of the Elspeth, or it could just go to Braverman's face, put him down to 6.
I don't think it's enough, though, because I think if Braverman only has 3 cards in his hand, yeah, he has 3 cards in his hand, so if he plays Obsidian, it goes up to 11.
Won't gain life, Erebos.
Oh, that's right, Erebos is in play, yeah, so he's not going to gain any life. So, yep, a top deck land from Ketter will win the game. So he might have, yep, you're right. He might just have to down tick Elspeth here. Elspeth will end up dying to the Spike Jester, but at least he won't die to the Stormbreath Dragon here.
This is 6 mana. This is an Elspeth. How does Braverman want to use this card?
Can he fade a land, given the fact that Kent was missing a lot of land drops here?
Starts at 4. Is the elevator going up or is it going way down? This is a really, really tough decision. Ketter looking at a Dreadbore in his hand. So because we can speculate on Kent wants to do on his next turn, because we know he's going to get one, which is he could just Dreadbore the Elspeth and attack for 3 and put Braverman down to 6. So he's actually the one with all the options, not to mention that he could, maybe draw cards with Erebos, 1, because he's a 4, but that's an option afforded to him.
Yeah, the question is, does he really want to put himself in opposite out range?
Probably not.
Yeah, Michael's in a tough spot here. He's basically, do I think there's a land on top of Kent's deck? He has to debate that. If he doesn't think there's a land on top of his deck, he's in pretty good shape to win if he just upticks Elspeth. However, it's a really risky play. He might, if you down take Elspeth, you're probably going to lose your Elspeth, but at least you'll have opposite out in your hand, and you'll still be in good shape to win in 2 turns.
Yeah, this is really, really hard. He's gonna go, not sure. He looked like he was gonna take it to 1. You can tell he obviously doesn't want to, but he will. All right, so Elspeth is gonna destroy target all creatures with power 4 or greater. There those go. Ketter draws a card. It would have been the land that comes into play tapped. It's a Scry land and Temple of Triumph. Take a look at the top. Ketter's gonna put that one to the bottom.
Now, if you're Ketter, do you just go after, do you Dreadbore here, or do you save it potentially?
He activates Erebos. He's going to draw a card. It's a Rakdos Cackler. He just knocked himself into opposite range. And I don't know if he knows that he did that or not.
I think if you're Kent, though, you figure if he has Obsidian, I'm dead no matter what.
But is that truly the case?
Yeah, because Obsidian comes into play, drains him for 2, then he blinks it out, and then you drain him again.
But the fact that his turn is Obsidian, he's going to go down to 6 from the attack. He could find a way to kill him on the following turn. Like, because Braverman's turn is committed to playing Obsidian, drain you to 2, blink it out so I can kill you when it comes back on upkeep. And that may not get the job done, as Ketter's going to now concede the game once he sees Braverman's Obsidian. If he stays at 4, he Dreadbores the Elspeth, he attacks the Spike Jester, puts him down to 6. He's able to draw another Spike Jester, he's able to draw a Stormbreath Dragon, an Exava. He's got cards to get the job done.
I agree. I think he probably has more outs if he doesn't put himself in opposite out range. But I'm just saying, Ken's thinking probably there is, all right, he already used 1 opposite out this game.
Sure.
If he has an opposite out, there's a good chance I'm probably losing anyway. So let me just try to get a little more aggressive with my card drawing here and commit more creatures to the board. Because again, like if he draws a haste creature there, he can Dreadbore the Elspeth and drop and pretty much almost, I wouldn't say guarantee winning, but he'll be in good shape to win there. But I'm with you. I probably would just try to keep myself out of opposite out range.
Yeah, I just don't like putting myself in that particular situation of going down to 2, where obviously there's no guarantee that my opponent has opposite out in their hand, but they have access to the card in their deck. I'm not sure of how many copies they have when I'm in this position of Ketter playing the match. Obviously, we have the deck list in front of us, so we do have the access to that number, but it's very dangerous. And I know that in the match where we watched Reed Duke play against Heather Wilkerson, the exact same thing happened with Reed and his Underworld Connections activations, where he gave Wilkerson an out to actually be able to find an Obsidian to get the job done. And after multiple Erebos activations, Tyler found one to push it to 3rd game.
Well, the other thing you have to realize is that when you're not playing against the red deck, you often don't think about the reach that these decks have.
Sure.
It's usually you think, all right, well, if I'm at 2, the only way they're going to get me from 2 to 0 is by attacking me somehow.
Sure.
A lot of people just forget about the Obsidian. I don't know if Kent forgot about Obsidian or not, but it certainly seemed there like he was just basically trying to be aggressive. And the way it panned out, I don't think he wins even if he doesn't activate there, because Obsidian's still coming in. And he just buys himself 1 more turn, and based on what he drew, it ended up being a Rakdos Cackler anyway.
Sure.
So I don't think he wins the game regardless, but I agree with you. I think I would probably side on the air caution there, just simply because Obsidian is a way for you to lose the game, and you almost pulled out a victory there. I would probably just try to be a little conservative, but again, I think his logic was sound. I don't think it was a punt or anything.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, it's definitely difficult with the options being presented here, but either way, we're going to play a 3rd and final one here in round of 15 of 16 of our Season 1 Invitational here in Charlotte. If you guys are just joining us, you chose a good time to come in. Watching Kent Ketter and Michael Braverman essentially playing for top 8 here. Cedric Phillips, Osavodavic, Patrick Sullivan here in the booth all weekend long, joined by Andrew Strout and Nick Miller over in the sideboard and the rest of the Star City Games live crew. Appreciate you guys joining us all weekend long here as we make our way towards our elimination rounds for all 3 of our tournaments. A 577-player Standard Open going on behind us, which we'll be covering a little bit later in the evening. But for right now, we turn our attention towards round 15 of our Invitational. Michael Braverman will be on the draw with black-white midrange. Kent Ketter on the play with black-red aggro. He's already kept his hand, and Braverman deciding what to do.
Sin Collector was huge in that second game for Braverman because getting rid of that Mizzy Mortars proved to be the difference there.
Rakdos Cackler to start things off again. Kent, all 3 games having a 1-drop. He's only got 4 in his deck. Does not have a card like Tormented Hero or Fire Drinker Sate or any of that stuff in his deck. He's heavy black, little splash of red.
And there is a come into play tap land from Braverman, so pretty good start from Kent. He's got a 1-drop, 2-drop, and a 3-drop. We're going to see a Thrill Kill Assassin unleashed here.
Yeah, this is a really, really good start. If that had been Spike Jester, it would have been a nightmare. As it is, it's just another 2-power creature, so it's not great here for Braverman, who's going to draw a card. It's a Blood Baron of Vescopa.
Does he have any removal spells? Okay, so Mutavault means I don't have Bioblight. So let's see what Braverman can do here. He might actually just activate Mutavault if he doesn't have any removal spells.
Ugh. There's a Spike Jester at the top there for Ketter. He's actually going to cast this as opposed to a Chandra's Phoenix to leave up Dark Betrayal. So in we go. I wonder if that's going to come back not playing Phoenix this turn. That's really, really interesting to me.
I actually really like this play because if Braverman does have a Sin Collector, he can respond to the ability by Dark Betraying it.
Okay.
And then there are no targets for Sin Collector.
Sure.
And then he plays it. So I kind of like that because the damage is actually the same.
Okay.
You know? Plus it's a card that you can't get ultimate priced.
And we do see an ultimate price take care of the Thrill Kill Assassin. So an attack here for 5. Braverman goes down to a cool 13. He'll take a draw.
Yeah,
that
so
is another come into play tap land.
If Ketter led with the Chandra's Phoenix, he probably has that killed. He probably has that die to ultimate price instead. So now he won't have a flyer in play. So I actually really like that play from Ken.
Let's see what Braverman wants to do here. Again, he's got a Godless Shrine in his hand. He drew an Orzhov Guildgate for the turn. One of the things that happens when you splash in this Devotion strategy with Black-White, you have more come to play tap lands where Mono Black Devotion, they choose to play a couple of Temples in their deck. Godless Shrine going to come into play untapped here. Braverman going to go down to 11. That power comes at a cost. Let's see if this is Sin Collector.
Wow.
It is.
So it worked out for him.
This is the play that you talked about. There's a Dark Betrayal with Sin Collector on the stack. Ketter going to drop the mountain for the Phoenix that's in his hand. And heaven forbid he draws an Exava this turn. Things get really, really ugly.
Wow. So Kent now has ability to attack for 7 potentially on his turn, dropping Braverman to 4.
It could be even more. Let's see what he draws for the turn. Looks like he drew a mountain. He's going to play that. He's going to get in with the Phoenix. This is an attack here for 7. Braverman does go down to the 4 that you did mention, and boy, is he behind in this one.
He's got a Doomblade in his hand, so he can actually deal with the Chandra's Phoenix. The question is, does he have a second removal spell? He's constantly in these positions where he needs another removal spell. He does have Mutavaults, so he can buy himself some time, but it will set him back on mana, and he's got that Blood Baron in his hand, just trying to get it into play. Sin Collector is still in his hand. That's really not useful here. He needs two ways to interact with 2 creatures right now.
Yeah. Braverman has not played a land yet. This is his 4th turn. He's sitting at 4 life. You could see how huge it is to be on the play in this matchup for Ketter.
And having that 1-drop too, it's like it's night and day, this deck. And it looks like basically Braverman's deciding what he wants to do here. I think his only line is Doomblade your Phoenix, activate Mutavault, block, drop down to 2, which isn't bad because then he can play a Sin Collector and he'll have another blocker. So
Ketter draws a card. It's a mountain to go along with his other one. So all he's got is what's on the table right now. Ketter shrugs his shoulders, says, "Let's get in there, creatures."
So it worked out for Braverman this game. He managed to brick another haste creature or a burn spell here. So Braverman's still in reasonable shape here. He's going to be able to kill 2 creatures this turn. Let's see what he decides to do.
And Michael considering using the new Mutavault to activate the Mutavault that's been in play, maybe block with that and then use the Doomblade that's in his hand or whatever removal spell that he does have that costs 2 mana.
Yeah, he doesn't have Dark Betrayal, but Kent does not know that. But either way, Kent's not changing his play. Kent really needs to start drawing some action here.
Yeah.
He's drew 2 lands in a row here, and it looked like a certain victory for him all of a sudden, getting a little land flooded here in the mid game.
Mutavault? You have to assume is on Spike Jester. Ketter says, "That's fine. You're allowed to block."
Michael really doesn't have any other options here. I mean, he has to just block here, Doomblade, Chandra's Phoenix, and hope it works out.
Ketter just going to keep shuffling those mountains back and forth. Nothing he can do. He just has to hope that he can keep getting in points of damage. Braverman slowly but surely going to put that Mutavault on that Spike Jester. I can promise you that.
I don't know what else he's thinking about, really. I don't think he has anything else in his hand other than Sin Collector, Baron of Blood Baron, and another Orzhov Guildgate. Maybe a Hero's Downfall?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a Hero's Downfall, maybe, as opposed to something else. Oh, my. Okay, I thought maybe he was tapping 1 mana for something, but...
Yeah, maybe he's just trying to maximize mana. It might be Hero's Downfall or Doomblade, but he's definitely casting some removal spell.
Yeah, I think he actually wants to probably save Hero's Downfall. So, yeah, he's going to do this right now.
Yeah, it looks like he does have a Hero's Downfall.
Yeah.
So his hand is Hero's Downfall, Blood Baron, Sin Collector, and Guildgate.
Yeah, because what he's wanting to do is, because if he plays a land next turn, like if he draws and plays an untapped land, he can fire up Mutavault. Let's say Ketter draws like Exava or something. He can fire up a Mutavault, block the Cackler, downfall the Exava, and still be okay. So Braverman's going to draw a card here.
And it is a tap land. So yeah, he might just... Yeah, I don't think he wants to cast Sin Collector here. He doesn't know what's in Michael and Ken's hand. He doesn't want to lose to another removal spell. So yeah, I'm with you. I think he just needs to pass here.
I mean, he's got to dodge the world, but, I mean, he can't control that. He can just play the best that he can. Because he's got to presume that Ketter either has 1 removal spells in his hand that are sorcery speed like a Dreadbore, or 2 just lands.
Yeah.
I guess he wants to find out exactly what this
Oh,
card
wow.
is. So it looks like he's going to go Sin Collecting.
So Kent has even more outs here.
Yes.
Now any removal spell is an out.
Yeah. Sorcery speed removal like a Dreadbore or Mizzy Mortars is an out. So let's see what Ketter draws right now. As you see him clap his hand and rub them together.
Oh, and that is an out.
Is a Stormbreath Dragon, and he's flying over for a bunch. Ketter is going to win this match 2-1. It looks like he may have just locked up top 8 of the Invitational. Congratulations to Kent Ketter with his black-red aggro deck.
And I wonder if Michael draws a land that comes into play untapped, like a swamp or a plains, does he play that turn differently? Because like you said, he can play it, and then he can activate Mutavault, block Rakdos Cackler, and then a Hero's Downfall something. So either way, I think you can't cast Sin Collector there because you just give Kent more outs.
Yeah.
You give him any removal spell, suddenly an out.
Also, here's a different situation. Let's say that Braverman just doesn't cast Sin Collector and leaves 3 mana up. What is the likelihood that Ketter sends in with the Rakdos Cackler? Because like he draws the dragon, right? He draws the dragon, cast it, and he's got a dragon and a Cackler versus 3 lands, 1 of which is a Mutavault. Because we could again just see what happened in the previous turn, which is Attribute Mutavault, block Doomblade or Ultimate Price your guy, and then all of a sudden Ketter has no board.
I think the way it played out, I think Kent probably attacks with both creatures no matter what.
Okay.
But I'm with you. The correct scenario is leave my mana up and actually force Kent to make a bad play.
Yeah. I think given the situation that Braverman's in, where he's like behind the 8 ball, needs to fade a bunch of draw steps, he can actually maybe present a situation where Ketter outthinks himself.